too little information? Well, we can now hear a third witness statement, someone who was involved.
Hello? Okay, it works. All right, my name is Yves Messer, and I was a member in France from 1983 to 1994. So I spent about 11 years, and I worked also in Germany. It is relevant, I think. Why I decided to come out publicly against LaRouche is because basically he's a bastard. It should be told so. They can sue me on that if they want. I can prove it. And also because I know very well Jacques Cheminade, the French organization where Jeremiah Duggan was recruited. I know the German organization, I know the American organization. So basically these are the organizations which were involved in Jeremiah Duggan recruitment. The important thing I want to state here is that I'm not only an ex-member of LaRouche, but I'm also Jewish. And it's very important what Dr. Matthew Feldman and Chip said about the code words, how nasty and pernicious it is, how effective it is. Because the thing is, many people say LaRouche is not anti-Semitic because we have a lot of Jews in this organization, which was true in the 70s, not so much anymore. But it's the use of the code words which make even hard for a Jew to realize that, in fact, you are in a Jewish anti-Semitic organization. So I'm doing this also in honor, in memory to my family. Half of my family died in Auschwitz. And I think it's important to state this because I was manipulated. And it is very dangerous when even Jews don't realize they are part of an anti-Semitic organization. I can explain how it works, but I don't think we have much time now. But that's basically my statement. And I am convinced, and I know, and everything that was said so far is true. The LaRouche organization is not only, but it is a cult, an anti-Semitic cult. And it should be considered and treated as such. And dangerous because they are Nazis without swastika. You don't see them. It's hard to recognize. We need to prove it. It's easy when you wear a swastika, but they don't. The swastika is in their head.
So I have one statement. Es gibt ein kurzes Statement.
There's a brief statement by Mr. Feldman.
Very important point, and I offer my personal tribute to the families who come forward under very difficult circumstances. But the idea of a Nazi without a swastika, or perhaps a fascist that is not calling themselves one, I think is the most important strand in neo-fascism and in radical groups after 1945. The great political scientist Pierre-André Taguieff has written about a very similar phenomenon in France by a man named Hélène de Benoit, and he reminds us that fascism is not going to do us the favor of reappearing in the precise same forms as it did in the 1930s in terms of jackboots and, shall we say, biological racism. And he writes that if vigilance was only a game of recognizing something already well known, then it would only be a question of remembering. And I believe that this is something that the families have to help us understand even further.
Ja, wir haben jetzt Berichte gehört von früheren Mitgliedern.
Okay, well, we heard reports of former members, but we also have reports of parents of former members. And I'd like to thank our speaker. She has come all the way from Hamburg, by the way. Well, I was pleased to come. I came gladly, not just because my job brings it with it to deal with a number of right-wing groupings that seduce people. I work in Hamburg in a working group looking at Scientology, but that doesn't mean that I restrict my work to Scientology. I also look at the other groups, and this one here is one that we have had to look into right from the beginning. From our point of view, Scientology and LaRouche are the most dangerous psycho organizations existent in the world today, and both of them deserve our special attention. And, well, I could say a lot on the answers provided by the German federal government, but I won't. This is about those affected, and I'm going to read out a statement by parents. Our son had a place at changed universities in 2004. After he had been given a place at the university, he interrupted his course of studies and disappeared for about 2 months in the Saxonian electoral campaign. He told us that he was helping a citizens' initiative which worked to combat people who were without jobs, and why not? He surprised us later, 2 weeks after that, that he wanted to become a full-timer for the Büso. We were shocked. To that point, this organization or party was completely unknown to us. We tried to convince our son to actually bring his university education to a close, because it could only be to his benefit to have some kind of a degree or some sort of work he could then take up, rather than be just unemployed. We also told him that his political influence would be that much greater if he could stand up for his convictions as somebody with a university degree. But it all failed. The LaRouche organization had already hooked him. He told us that his university studies didn't make any sense because you don't learn anything at university anyway. The financial crisis was about to break out, a third world war was about to arise, etc., etc. And for all those reasons, he'd have to become political. So we took the time to talk to him over a number of days. He'd not been really interested in politics prior to that. According to his previous statements, he was a sympathizer with the Green Party. All of a sudden, he talked about high technology, the Transrapid rail link would need to be built, nuclear power stations would need to be built all around the world. So a 180-degree turn. We noticed that he called his political opponents as idiots, ridiculous and cowards. These are attributes that shouldn't be part of a political debate. In his new environment, it seemed to be common to call political opponents fascists or Nazis. Anyone protecting the environment, for example, are called eco-fascists. We were interested in how he saw his future. He was talking, after all, about the financial system collapsing, and he was talking about becoming a financial expert. He also wanted to help build up a university where he could really learn things. So his discussion style was rather difficult. He was jumping from one thing to another, and we gradually learned about the entire LaRouche eclecticism. Socrates was fantastic, Aristoteles is too materialistic, Kepler is good, Newton was a charlatan, the baby boomers are to blame for the terrible situation of the world, etc., etc. Modern art is satanic. The only true thing is the form of art that was around during the time of the Renaissance, and Johann Sebastian Bach was the last real musician. Modern music was disgusting. Despite its supposed progressive paroles, LaRouche is a right-wing organization. That becomes clear in many points. One word or idea that never features is that of democracy. Political participation and participation of the people in power isn't their thing. Their cadre organization, Schiller Institute, is called Institute for State Art. It's an elitist grouping. The Holocaust and the Nazi dictatorship are